So Overwatch 2 Season 5 just dropped, and the one question on everyone's mind is Wifeleaver actually good now? So Lifeweaver, or Wifeleaver as I'll probably accidentally call him a few times in this video, was the hero everyone was looking forward to getting buffs in this update. And buffs he did receive. He got a large amount of buffs covering basically his entire kit, with the only exception being his ultimate that got a slight increase to its cost. So I'll read out the changes now for people who may have not seen them yet, but the little petals on his back have had their size and hit volume reduced by 10%. Basically before, his stupid big petals that coming off of his back were actually part of his hitbox that could be sought and he would take damage, and this was part of what made him so easy to kill, is because even though he's much larger just his character model than a lot of the other supports in the game, he also had those big petals sticking off of his back, which would also deal damage to him if someone were to shoot them, so his hitbox is even larger than a lot of people might initially think. But those have been slightly reduced in size and also had the hit volume reduced, so that it's a little bit better, but still not that much, honestly. He's still going to have to play very safe in order to not just be killed by almost any damage hero in the game. So aside from that, his healing blossom, the maximum healing, was increased from 65 to 75. His damage primary fire, thorn volley, the damage per projectile was increased from 5 to 6, which is a pretty major change we'll talk about. The projectile radius was increased from 0.1 to 0.25, and I believe this means the projectile size. So the projectiles should be bigger, and as such, it should be easier to hit people with them. And then his ammo was increased from 60 to 70. Petal platform got some really good quality of life changes. The walkable area of it was increased by 15%, and the area to trigger the lift now shrinks from a radius of 2 meters to a radius of 0.75 meters after you've placed it. So basically this means that the moment you place it, if you're standing in that 2 meter radius, it'll start to go up, but as soon as you've placed it down, the radius to activate the pedal rising up into the air is reduced to 0.75 meters. This way, it's much less likely that a teammate or you could accidentally trigger the pedal just by barely stepping on it. You basically have to get to the right into the center in order to have it go up. So this is really nice because this would mean a lot less accidental activations of the pedal platform that just waste it completely. Life grip got some buffs. The cooldown was reduced from 20 seconds to 16 seconds. And it now heals the target ally for 50 health. And then of course we have Tree of Life, which had its ultimate cost increased by 8%. Now the question is, do these buffs make him good? And I think the answer is yes, but not in a fun way. If anyone ever played with a Lifeweaver, they probably would always have the highest healing in the lobby, because his healing is actually really good. It's targetable, it's a decent amount, it's very easy to heal very mobile heroes like Tracer or Genji, or even flying heroes like Pharah and Echo, just because of how his heals track and they move very quickly, unlike KarQ's heals. KarQ's heals are very slow, and that kind of makes them hard to hit some mobile heroes with, because they can just straight up miss in a lot of scenarios. If a Tracer blinks, it runs the risk of all of the heals just not being able to hit the Tracer because they just miss because the tracking is not that great. They don't turn that well and they're very slow. But with Wifeleaver, his healing blossoms are very fast, very effective. They track. I think they even heal through walls, I think. They don't go through enemy barriers, but not a lot of sources of healing do. KarQ's healing gets destroyed by enemy barriers as well, but they also get destroyed by walls and other geometry. And from when I've played him, it seems like his healing will actually go through walls to people, as long as you had line of sight to them when you threw it out, which is really good. His healing output was really good, and that was the one reason that you could sometimes play him and get value out of him, is if it was a high ground heavy map, or you had a hero that could take advantage of pedal platform, and you had some very mobile characters that just needed to be healed up a lot. Because that was also the downside, is that aside from his healing, he really has nothing to offer. Other supports all just have more that they were able to offer the team. And with these changes, they've actually buffed his already really good healing even more. It's now 75 up from 65 healing. And also with quality of life changes to pedal platform, as well as a buff to life grip, making it also heal the targeted ally, his really good healing just got even better. However, he still has one fatal flaw that makes him not as great as he should be by looking at the numbers. Because if you just look at his damage and his healing and his abilities on paper, he seems like he would be an insane character. And honestly, he kind of is on paper. With this recent buff to his damage, with the damage per projectile going from 5 to 6, that's like a 20% increase in damage. With that, he actually has the highest damage out of every support in the entire game. His damage per second is 132. And for reference, Baptiste's damage per second is 127.5, and Zenyatta's is 120. If you count Discord, then Zenyatta's is 150, so Zenyatta wins with Discord included. But without any abilities or anything, Lifeweaver actually has the highest damage output in the entire game for a support. And that kind of leads into the fatal flaw in his design, which is that Lifeweaver is the only support in the entire game who cannot seamlessly transition from healing to dealing damage. And because of this, he's basically forced into being a heal bot, because his healing is one of the things that he does best, but in order to use it, he's just locked into constantly charging up heals. He's never able to flex other parts of his kit, even when allies are full health, because he has to charge up his heals first to use them. Every other character in the game, even Mercy, is able to easily and quickly transition from healing to dealing damage. A lot of supports have natural forms of healing that don't require them to use their primary fires at all. Like Zenyatta just has Orb of Harmony, Lucio has his Aura, Brigitte has Inspire as well as Armor Packs just being an ability she uses, or they are supports that are very easily able to transition between healing and damage. For Ana, you fire at an ally when you want to heal, and then you fire at an enemy when you want to deal damage. You can quickly go between the two. Baptiste is the same way. Left-click enemies, right-click allies. It's incredibly responsive and easy to switch between the two. You just press the button when you want to do one, press the other button for the other. The same with KarQ as well. You have your kunai, and then you have your healing paper. Throw the healing paper at someone, then you can throw kunais, then you can just throw the healing paper again. There's no downtime between having to switch between these two forms. Even Mercy can seamlessly transition between her healing staff and her Glock. Sure, she has to actually switch between the two, but as soon as she switches away from the Glock, she can just start healing people instantly. Lifeweaver is the only hero that can't do this, because he has to manually charge up his heals before he can use them. Because of that, say if you were to play Lifeweaver, if you're taking advantage of his damage, let's say you've got his thorns out, you're trying to deal some damage, take advantage of his really high damage per second, and then an ally starts to get low, well, you have to switch to your healing blossom, and then you have to spend 1 second to charge it up before you can send it to them to heal for a decent amount. And this basically kills him because he's now just forced into being on healing blossom and charging up these heals. He's never able to really flex between using his primary and secondary to kind of edge out an advantage in a fight, because he always needs to be charging a heal. I think this is, if anyone's seen any footage of people playing Lifeweaver I know I've seen Defran before he put it on delay because he got hard stuck. I think Boger was doing unranked to GM Lifeweaver as well, but they'd basically just heal bot the entire time because you're forced into doing that. And that's not changing with how they've done this update and how they've buffed him. They've made his heal botting even better, and I think it was already really good, so making it better just makes him an even stronger pick if that's what you're looking for. But it just doesn't fix the one problem, which is that because he has to charge up his heals before he can use them, he's basically locked into always using his heals and can never really flex out his damage and take control and impact over a fight. Because if he does that and then an ally gets critical, that ally's basically dead because he has to first switch to his healing, which still takes like a fraction of a second to do so, but it's still an additional time before he can actually start healing again, and then has to charge it up. in order to start healing them. And to just talk about how good his kit is without Thorn Volley, because again, Thorn Volley is ridiculously good. It is no fall off distance, pretty good projectile size, highest DPS for support in the entire game. But even without it, even if he's relegated to just being a heal bot, the buffs to Petal Platform alone make it much better. And it's already a very good ability. It just kept getting wasted a lot because of how easy it was to accidentally activate. But now that they've changed that, it should more consistently be able to be used to get value properly. And in addition, they also put healing onto Life Grip and also increased or decreased the cooldown of it. And to kind of just make a point of how good the healing is and the reduced cooldown, you can technically Life Grip someone who's like 2 feet away from you. And it's technically the same as Kiriko Suzu if you think about it. It doesn't cleanse, but it makes them immune to damage because of the sealed, and it also heals them for 50 health. So it's almost a Kiriko Suzu if you just use it right next to someone, since it'll just pull them 2 feet to the left, but they'll still get that damage blocking sealed the entire time. But on top of that, you can use it to pull people back from really far away, or even pull people onto high ground or other positions. With a shorter cooldown, you can even use it to help your allies get out of spawn. If you have a slow hero like an Ana that's coming back from spawn, you could go meet them halfway there and just pull them the rest of the way. There are a lot of fun applications for Life Grip being used in unconventional ways aside from the whole, oh, ally is getting low on health, I pull them back. And that's kind of why I think that even with his kit still having this major flaw in how he can't seamlessly transition between healing and damage like every other support in the game can, he still might be close to the point of being viable. So now that I talked about that fatal flaw in his kit, I think it's appropriate to talk about how I would fix it. And there's only one thing I think they need to do to fix this, which is to have a heal automatically charge while he has his healing put away. They could have it charge at a slower rate, like maybe have it be 2 seconds or 3 seconds to fully charge, but just make it so that if you use his damage for an extended period of time, when you switch over to your healing, you'll already have a Blossom partially charged or maybe even fully charged if it's been enough time that you can throw out immediately. And then you can go back into just charging them out and sending them as you need to. I think if the charging was at the same rate as it is when you are channeling the primary manually, it would be kind of broken that you could just basically do the same both things at once. You could just deal damage and then just switch over to his Blossom, throw it out every second, and then switch back to damage. So it would definitely have to charge at a slower rate than doing it yourself. But just doing that means that when you're in a scenario where your whole team is pretty full on health and they're healthy, you're not going to have to heal them in like the next 2 seconds. You can actually pull out your Thorn Volley and use it to deal damage, as opposed to just having to charge up another heal and just wait for your team to take damage. Because even if you only start with like 45 on your heal, that's at least a good starting point for you to be able to quickly finish off the charge and then send it off to the ally that needs healing. And I honestly think that if they implemented this in the game, they might actually have to nerf Lifeweaver, because actually being able to take advantage of as much damage as he has more consistently, just not being locked into being a heal bot, could actually make him a very massive threat. He'd just be this really strong DPS style support, kind of like Zenyatta is. And again, I don't think his hitbox or his survivability is that much of an issue for this kind of playstyle, because his damage is a projectile, it doesn't have fall off, and it's just a very good spam weapon as well, so he can use it from like very far away and still get value out of it. Same way that his healing is very fast and has a 30-meter range, so he can use that from very far away as well. So he can just play very safe and use his own platform to keep himself out of harm's way. So I feel like he's still viable without any more hitbox changes or any more survivability changes, but just not in the way I would have liked him to be, where he's this very mobile and aggressive healer that can flank, use pedal platforms to create high ground in the enemy backline, and then use Life Grip aggressively to pull allies into that new high ground that he's created. Since that was how I always thought that he would be played, at least maybe in, top 500 grandmaster level games. But his hitbox just made him too easy to kill for that to really come to fruition for him. And yeah, honestly, I think that's it for this video. Let me know if you think that he will be pretty strong even just as a pocket healer, like I think he will be, or if you think he still might need a little bit of help. And let me know if you've actually been able to make use of the new pedal platform in games, because I think it should be a lot easier without allies always accidentally stepping on the corners of it and sending it up into the air. So yeah, please like and subscribe if you're interested in content like this, and until next time, see ya!